Hello students and namaste everyone. I am Dhaval Sir and our today's topic is your chapter number 1 of standard 9th supplementary reader, that is The Lost Child by Mulk Raj Anand or Mukul Raj Anand, is one and the same. Right, so in the first part of the chapter we had seen that how a young boy goes out to a village fair with his parents, that is the mother and the father, and after reaching the fair, how he gets magnetized or attracted towards the different things like toys and the balloons and the rides and the flower garlands and everything, and how he was lagging behind from his parents. Right, so we had seen that this thing continued, and at a point of time he is lost in the fair, and there we had stopped the first part. Now we'll see that what are the reactions of the child, what does the child do, and is he able to find the parents, and what happens with him in the fair. Right, so to see that, we'll start with our second part and with the second paragraph. Okay, a full deep cry rose within his dry throat, and with a sudden jerk of his body. That means when we had seen in the first paragraph that the child was at the roundabout, means looking at the roundabout in full swing, and then when he tries to find out his parents were not found by him, and that is the reason the child was totally disappointed, and he was worried and frightened a lot, and due to that he had started crying. So in the second paragraph we can see a full deep cry rose within his dry throat. Right, so whenever we are very much frightened or worried, our throat becomes dry, we are not able to even speak out also. Right, and with a sudden jerk of his body, he ran from where he stood, crying in real fear. That means he was running here and there, and he was shouting, "Mother, Father." Tears rolled down from his eyes, hot and fierce. His flushed face was convulsed with fear. So flushed means his face was glowing brightly. Right, his flushed face. So the flushed face here means the shine or the brightness on his face was now not seen. Okay, and was convulsed with fear. So convulsed means to shake with fear. Panic stricken, that means he was very much worried. Right, he ran to one side first, then to the other, hither and thither in all the directions. So hither and thither means here and there, in all the directions, knowing not where to go. So the boy was really confused, and he didn't know where he could find his parents, and therefore he was running here and there in search of his parents. Okay, mother, father, he wailed. Wailed means he cried loudly, making noises. Okay, his yellow turban came untied and his clothes became muddy. So if you can see in the picture right here that the young boy or the young child had worn a turban on his face. Right, in this picture you can see that there is a turban on the child's head. Right, and that turban, right, so the turban came out and his clothes had become muddy. Okay, having run to and fro, that means to and fro means backward and forth. Right, in a rag of running, rag means in anger of running for a while, he stood defeated. That means now he had accepted that he could not find his parents. His cries suppressed into sobs. So suppressed into sobs means now the cry which he had controlled now had turned into loud noise making cry. Okay, sob means to cry noisily while taking in short sudden breaths, like this. When we have seen the children, they cry, they do like this, right? That is sobbing. Okay. At little distances on the green grass, he could see through his filmy eyes men and women talking. He tried to look intently among the patches of the bright yellow clothes, but there was no sign of his father and mother among these people who seemed to laugh and talk just for the sake of laughing and talking. That means here the description is given that there were a lot of people around. He was trying to search or find out from among those people that where his parents or his mother or father are there, but he couldn't find any of them. Right? He couldn't find his father or mother in any of them. Okay? He ran quickly again, this time to a shrine. Shrine means a place where people go to worship. Okay? To which people seemed to be crowding. That means at the shrine there were a lot of people. Every little inch of space here was congested with men, but he ran through the people's legs, his little sob lingering. Little sob lingering means he was continuously crying, right? Like this. Okay. Lingering means continuously. That means his crying was still going on and on. Mother, father, he kept on shouting, right? Near the entrance to the temple, however, the crowd became very thick. Very thick means there was a huge crowd over there. Men jostled each other. Jostled means they tried to push each other. Okay? Heavy men with flashing murderous eyes and hefty shoulders. Murderous eyes means whenever there is a kind of a fight between people, they look in a very strong manner like this. Okay, so there is a kind of expression given by the men. Okay, with murderous eyes and hefty shoulders. Hefty means very big and strong shoulders, because they were the elderly men. Okay, the poor child struggled to thrust away between their feet, but knocked to and fro by their brutal movements. Brutal means very violent, right? There was so much crowd over there, that means all of them were pushing each other, and in this situation the child was just moving here and there with the push of the men. He might have been trampled underfoot. Trampled means crushed, right, below the feet of the people, had he not shrieked. Shrieked means to shout loudly with a cry at the highest pitch of his voice, "Father, mother!" A man in the surging crowd. Surging means a sudden movement of many people. That means when this boy shouted, there was a movement and many people were looking at him, right? Heard his cry and, stopping with great difficulty, lifted him up in his arms. That means, as we discussed in the first part, there was a kind man who finds this child and he tries to help this child to find out his parents. "How did you get here, child? Whose baby you are?" the man asked as he steered clear of the mass. Steered means mixed. Okay? So as he steered clear means when he went away from the mass of people or the group of people, away from the group of people, then he asks the child. The child wept more bitterly. Wept means started crying more and more bitterly, means continuously. And how much the child was crying, more than that he started crying. Then ever now and only cried, "I want my mother, I want my father." The man tried to soothe. Soothe means to try to calm down or to try to console, right? When someone is in difficulty, we try to calm them. Don't worry, everything will be fine. That is known as soothing. Okay? So soothe him by taking him to the roundabout. "Will you have a ride on the horse?" he gently asked as he approached the ring, right? Because he was now trying to calm down the child. The child's throat tore into 1,000 shrill sobs, and he only shouted, I want my mother, I want my father. So here 1,000 shrill sobs means, as we have discussed, sobbing means to cry with making such kind of reactions or actions like this. Okay, we'll move further. How did okay, this we have already completed this paragraph, then we'll move further. The men headed towards the place where the snake charmer still played on the flute to the sewing cobra. Sewing means doing the kind of movement. Listen to that nice music, child, he pleaded. But the child shut his ears with his fingers and shouted his double-pitched strain. Strain means anger or temper. I want my mother, I want my father. So continuously he was trying to find out or ask for his parents. The men took him near the balloons, thinking the bright colors of the balloons would distract the child's attention and quieten him. Would you like a rainbow-colored balloon? He persuasively asked. Persuasively means convincingly. That means he was trying to convince the child that please you purchase these balloons and you will enjoy it a lot. Right. So if you try to remember, in the first part we had seen that this same child who is lost right now was demanding all these things from his parents, but his parents denied for all the things, and at present the kind man who found this lost child is trying to convince the child to purchase or to buy all these things, but the child is not at all interested in all these things, right? The child turned his eyes from the flying balloons and just sobbed. I want my mother, I want my father. The men, still trying to make the child happy, bore him to the gate where the flower seller sat. Bore him means to make one's way steadily, especially against resistance. That means, as we know that there was a lot of crowd, so he was moving in one direction towards some place. Okay. Look, can you smell those nice flowers, child? Would you like a garland to put round your neck? Garland means har. Okay. The child turned his nose away from the basket and reiterated means repeated his sob. I want my mother, I want my father. Thinking to humor his disconsolate charge by a gift of sweets. Right, so humor here means to try to please or satisfy someone by doing what is wanted. Right, so he was trying to make the child smile, he was trying to make the child happy. Okay, so thinking to humor his disconsolate means very unhappy or sad, right? So charged by a gift or sweet, so he tried to give the child gifts and sweets and everything, so he thought that by these things he might become happy. The men took him to the corner of the sweet shop. What sweets would you like, child? He asked. The child turned his face from the sweet shop and only sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. So this is where the story ends. Whether the child finds his parents or not is a question mark, which is not explained in the story. But we can imagine or we can understand that as it is a village place, it might be a small place where one can easily find the parents of the child who is lost. And we have also seen that many times in the fairs there is a sound system, mics and everything, and through that also the person can contact or try to contact the parents. Right, so this is what the story is. So ultimately, what is the thing to understand is that at the beginning of the chapter, when we saw the first part, The main thing was that the child was demanding the things like flower, garlands, sweets, toys, balloons, and everything, right? Which he wanted eagerly, but at the end of the story, when his parents are lost, right? He doesn't want all those things which he wanted at one point of time, right? So ultimately, from this, we can understand that how much important the parents are for the child. At one point of time, whatever the needs or demands are there for us, it doesn't remain the same when the situation changes. Okay, so here we'll end our second part of the chapter, and that's it for today. Thank you everyone for watching my video.